How do consumers decide what combination of two goods maximizes their satisfaction? In this video, we'll explore the consumer choice model. You'll learn how consumers allocate their budget across two goods to maximize utility, balancing the benefits from each based on their preferences and the prices.
Here we want to think about how a consumer is going to make choices to maximize their satisfaction. Okay? Our goal here, I should say the goal of a consumer in our model, is to get as much utility as it can or to maximize their utility. You can think of this as maximizing satisfaction, maximizing happiness, whatever. Right? So they're going to make choices on how much stuff to buy and which stuff to get the highest utility level they can. Okay? Now, that additional satisfaction you get, think extra margin of utility from buying an extra unit, that's got to be combined with reality, right? So it's got to be determined by how much does that something cost and how much money do you have, right? This is called a budget constraint. This is going to limit your choices. So the prices of the things that you want to buy, and then how much income do you have or wealth that you can to actually buy these things at these prices, that's called a budget constraint. And that's going to limit your choices. So for instance, if you're just talking about like my preferences and my utility, like I want a private Hawaiian island. That's going to give me really high utility. I'm going to do that if I can. But reality says, sorry, I can't afford a private Hawaiian island because my budget constraint doesn't allow it. It limits my choices. At the current price of purchasing a private Hawaiian island and given my income, I can't do it. And so what we have here is called a constrained optimization problem, where this budget constraint will limit a consumer's choices, and they have to work within that budget to actually get the highest utility level that they can. Okay. All right, I'm going to start with a real simple one good utility maximization problem. This isn't very interesting, and we're not going to really do these. We're going to go to a two good model. That's where all the economics is. But to just start off, we'll do this with one good. And so like without a budget constraint, how many movies would someone want to purchase or consume in a week to get the highest utility level they could? Well, they just want to do more, right? Keep on going because utility level is always going up with more movies. So they're going to consume as many as they can. Right? Now, let's compose a budget constraint, and that's going to limit our choices. If the price of a movie is $20, and the money you have allocated for movies or your budget for movies is $120, now, what is the amount of movies you want to maximize your utility? Well, you still want to get as many as you can, but now you're limited. You can only afford 5 movies. So you can only get up to 46, a level of utility of 46 by consuming five extra movies. You'd want to get more. You'd want to buy more movies. You just can't afford them. Okay? And so if you have a budget constraint on one good, you're just going to be cut off and like limited at some point. So that one's not very interesting. There's not much economics going on in there. The more interesting example would be trying to maximize your utility for 2 or more goods. Right? I'm going to show you 2 goods. You get all the economics you need from just looking at 2 goods. So again, the goal of our consumer is to maximize their utility. They needed to choose. Let's say we have 2 goods, X and Y, like good X and good Y, right? It could be hamburgers for good X and hot dogs for good Y. They need to choose, well, how many hamburgers should I buy and how many hot dogs should I buy to maximize my utility, okay? Maybe I spend all my money on hamburgers. Maybe I spend it all on hot dogs. Maybe I buy 50-50. Maybe I 20%, 80% of my expenditures split on these. Okay, so what's going to determine how they're split is going to be your preferences over hamburgers and hot dogs. Like how much do you like hamburgers versus hot dogs, and their prices. How much does a hamburger cost, and how much does a hot dog cost? Now, even though let's say like a hamburger might be cheaper than a hot dog, you might not want to buy only hamburgers because you like have a preference for variety, right? You don't want to eat hamburgers every day. Maybe you want to switch in some hot dogs. So even though hamburgers are cheaper, always, lower price, you still might want to buy some hot dogs because you like some variety in your diet, in your consumption, okay? So there's going to be this trade-off between how many utils you get from buying an extra hamburger and how many utils you get from buying an extra hot dog. So we can think about this problem of a consumer choosing between how many goods, between two goods to maximize their utility. As the way to solve this we could be thinking of it as they want to purchase their utils or marginal utility as cheaply as possible. Right? If you purchase utils as cheaply as possible, you're going to get the most utils you can for a given amount of income you have, right? So in other words, you can think of this problem as buy more of a good with the highest or with a higher marginal utility per dollar. Whichever good has a higher marginal utility per dollar, buy that good. And that's going to start increasing your, or it's going to start maximizing your utility that you can get. Okay. So if we do this, if we start purchasing utilities or marginal utility as cheaply as possible, and doing that, that's going to lead us to a rule. If you follow the rule to maximize utility, it's going to become, we want to equalize the marginal utility per dollar across all goods. So the way you want to read this equation here is that at the utility maximizing bundle of good A and good B, so you can think of hamburgers and hot dogs, we want the marginal utility of that last hamburger divided by the price of that hamburger to equal the marginal utility of that last hot dog divided by the price of the hot dog. Okay? So the consumer is going to maximize their utility when the marginal utility per dollar is equalized between good A and good B. So next, we're going to apply this rule to figure out at a given allocation of, say, like 5 hamburgers and 3 hot dogs at these prices, is the consumer actually maximizing their utility or not? Okay, so we're going to go through a couple practice questions of how to solve problems for this module.